How would you describe John Denver if you had to describe him just briefly?
The fewest words would be John is the perfect friend. You know, you don't have to worry about somebody, you know, backbiting you or doing something behind your back. He's always honest. He always includes everybody. Out of all the groups that I've worked for over the years, from the Four Tops to Steely Dan, and I've never been on a tour where everybody gets to go first class. John is magnanimous, takes everybody out to dinner, most expensive dinners, being nice to everybody, the nicest rooms. It's just, you don't even have to think about it. All you have to think about is playing and performing that night and enjoying it, and then John does everything else. And it was just unbelievable. You know, when James Burton had an accident with a chainsaw. I don't remember how many years ago it was, but within an hour, John's Learjet was there to take him to the best doctors in New York City to get the injury to his leg taken care of. And so it's just that kind of a guy, the perfect friend.
Do you miss him?
Oh yeah, a lot. I think about him every day. And the geese fly over. When my wife and I were somewhere last week, and she said that you know, she saw John in a dream or something, and John said something to her. And then when we got up to here, you know, that somebody was going to be, you know, we were going to be bumping into somebody. And then 3 days ago, we bumped into this person that she dreamt John Denver told her about. So those kind of things that you go, no, that stuff's impossible. That can't happen. But it happens, and you talk to people where things like that happen, or you'll just get steered some way or do something. You know, Connie, my wife, would I'm filling out this thing for this kind of a deal because, you know, I just thought I should do it. You know, and then we'd meet somebody that, oh, so you worked with John? I worked with John and such, or did this. We'd meet somebody through one more inexplicable connection, and so yeah, I think about it a lot.
Do you think you've changed a lot as a result of being with him?
I've been more caring about the other friends and family that I have, and counting on all the time, whatever time left that we have together, making everything just more important. I talk to my sister almost every day on the phone. Where I used to be, you know, once every 6 months I call up my sister, or she'd call me and we'd talk about something, right? But now it's every day. And I talk to my daughters all the time and everything, making sure we keep those connections and the friends we have here in Aspen and stuff, and just keep all those things flowing, where before it would be, well, I'd call Barney, but I don't want to bother him, you know, probably. But I don't do that anymore.
Thanks a lot, Roger. It's beautiful.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, can you just say your releases from any liability arising?
Say your name, and then I'll let you use my likeness and electronic media.
Okay. I'll allow you to use my likeness above the waist, and for electronic medium, whatever you want to use it for, and in this compilation that you're doing, this piece of work about John Denver.
Give us your name and a little bit of background.
Okay.
Where you live and.
My name is Conrad Reeder, and Connie, people call me Connie, and I worked with John Denver on the road for 7 years in his band, and did solos, sang Fly Away. I played oboe for one tour because Jim Horn hates double reed instruments, and I didn't care as much about the tinty sound. Anyway, so I was sort of a singer/musician in John's band, and then I sang on his albums.
So how did you meet John?
Okay, I met John at an event in Santa Monica. There was an Indian guru by the name of Muktananda who was giving a talk, and I went down with my friend and had my 3-month-old baby, and we walked in, and there was John singing What One Man Can Do right in front of the guru. And I wasn't so enthralled with the guru, but I thought, oh, there's John Denver. I had never met him before. And then my baby, started to cry. So we were ushered out of the tent, and I went into the office, and I had, very discreetly nursed the baby so she would shut up. And that's, Anyway, so at that exact moment, John walked in and like stood over me, like glowing after his audience with this guru. And he was like looking down at me, and maybe I looked like Madonna at the moment, I don't know. But he was just stood there. And I said, well, hi, John, because a few days earlier, my husband, Roger Nichols, had started working with him in the studio. So I knew, and of course, everybody knew what John Denver looked like. However, I must say, he was much taller. And he didn't look that dorky in person. He was very handsome and tall and very charming, and that's how I met him. And then we sort of had this conversation about spirituality, and then that was it. And then I was singing in clubs in New York, and after a session one night, they brought John by where I was singing, and then that's how I got the gig. Actually, they said, oh, we want you to sing in the band, and then I forgot about it, and then a year later, the limo showed up at my door, so I got in.
What was he like to work with?
He was a perfectionist. We rehearsed extensively. However, we were all pro by that time. I was a studio singer, a seasoned studio singer, and everybody who worked with John was the best. And in fact, the band, I was so impressed with the band, and so was John. I mean, you know, he had James Burton, Glenn D. Harden, Jerry Kerrigan, and Jerry Sheff, you know, Elvis's rhythm section. And the band was just pro. I mean, these guys could play asleep. It still sounded great. You know, it was just, he was, but I will say, I mean, you got to know his looks. You know, if John gave you that look, you had to like, okay, something wasn't right, you know. And we'd listen to show tapes, and we'd study our show tapes, and it was always, how can it be better? I mean, it was very professional.
What was he like when you weren't working with him? Just socially?
Oh, he was a fun guy. We went scuba diving. I mean, whatever John was doing, he would bring his friends along, or even just go get you and bring you to come play. And he treated people like family.
So what sort of impact did it have on your life? Did your life change as a result of being or working with John?
Yes. Well, my life personally changed because I was on the route to being, you know, a singer. I had a band. I had a record deal. I thought, you know, I was going to, you know, I was in the groove. And after working with John, I just thought, that is so much attention all the time. I mean, I don't know how he handled it, really. It was just everywhere, all over the world. I mean, he couldn't go anywhere. And he was always so charming. And maybe I should talk about the last time I saw John.
Okay.
Okay, at that time, this was Nashville. They had finished the Train album, the Children's All Aboard. And I was writing for a journal, a magazine, EQ magazine. And I have a byline, published journalist. And you always sort of hated the way Nashville treated John. They really gave him the cold shoulder, and he didn't fit into their new genre of pop, recycled 80s pop. He didn't quite make that leap. So they always treated him badly. And I kept saying, John, I want to do a real interview. Let's do a real interview. I'm going to get in the paper. And, you know, I had editors that would look at my stuff. And it was big news. John was in Nashville recording this wonderful children's album. It is a great album. It won a Grammy. Anyway, KO kept saying, well, he's all scheduled, and I couldn't get him. So KO said, okay, well, we're going to the airport, jump in the car, and we'll go to the airport, and you can interview him on the way to the airport. So I had my little tape recorder, and I got in the back seat, and, you know, by this time I've already known him. I mean, I know him like a brother, you know, he's like, I know everything about him, sort of. And so, but I was trying to be an official journalist for this interview. So I said, John, you know, what are you doing? And of course, at that time, he was really excited about Planet 2000, because this is 1997. And he's talking all about Planet 2000, and you know, he'd been up all night. You know, it was one of those, you know, roaring sessions, and he was tired, and I knew he was tired, but I was still making him talk, and we did this whole interview, and we get to the airport, and this is like, it's just KO driving and John. There's no entourage, there's no bodyguard, there's no one. and then me in the back seat, you know. And so we get to the airport, and John got out of the car, and there he is on the curb by himself. And all of a sudden, this group of women, and he's getting his bag checked, and this group of women went, "There's John." You know, you could see their lights just lit up, and they went, you know, all the way, and there he was, and he was so charming, and he was so tired, and he was a little grouchy actually, you know, because he was, he just had to indulge me in the car on the way to the airport, but he was still patient. And I just sat there and I thought, you know, the guy is incredible. I mean, he was so charming. He took time. He stood there, and you could see he was tired. But he stood there and signed, and he was a little late for the plane, but it didn't matter. He stood there and signed everybody's signature, and he was just so charming. And that's my last image.
I understand there's a story about your health condition. When you were on tour with John at one stage, which became a big question mark.
How when did pregnancy become a health condition?
Oh, it's a big one.
It's a state of being. Roger and I conceived. John always made a big deal about who the father was of the child. And then there was a huge tour coming up, and he wanted me to do the tour, and I was like, I don't know, because I had this image of myself as being a singer, you know, with the hair and the body, and you know, I never thought of myself as being pregnant, singing in front of millions of people. But he said, no, come on, we'll do it. So it started out, I was just a little pregnant, and then I got more and more pregnant, and I ended up doing the whole pregnancy on the road up until about 3 weeks before I gave birth. And it was an incredible experience. It really was. I mean, women would come backstage and they would say, "Oh, you're moving." and of course, like I mentioned, it wasn't the Ozzy Osbourne crowd. I mean, you know, these people are family people, and so they were very, you know, generous with their. But he just loved me doing the show pregnant. I don't know what it was about that, but he was a family man in many ways. He loved children, he loved families, he loved his family.
What about one story about John that we wouldn't know about? A little story about something that may have occurred, some idiosyncrasy, some fun thing.
I'm not sure what I can really talk about on camera.
Go on.
Well, I'd like to set the record straight about his alcohol and drugging, because he didn't, really. I mean, one night, Elizabeth and I tried to get him to smoke pot, and he wouldn't smoke it. He was really in many ways, very straight and very serious and professional, and this was after a toga party, and if you couldn't get somebody to smoke a joint after a toga party, come on. I just laugh when they say he was an alcoholic and a druggie and all. It's just, come on. He partied and had a good time, but he was never out of control. He was very, very much in control. And I don't know, is that I might have to write a book. I don't know if I'll give you all my stories or not.
So,
is that, let's see, what else?
No, let me ask you just that, obviously you and Roger worked really closely with him, so he became very much a part of your lives. So you must miss him.
Well, today I don't, because look at this wonderful event and the people around him. I mean, yes, I do miss him, but I had so many wonderful memories. I have so many wonderful memories to draw on, and how lucky can that be? I feel very lucky to have known him, and one of our very dear friends, Ron Lemire, who worked with John as a bodyguard, and his very good friend Tom Crum, and he made the comment that, you know, the guy lived about 10 lifetimes in one. We should all be so lucky. Thank you.
That was beautiful.